To me, it was delightful. Honest to goodness village. There were brick walks that the Village Improvement Society built. Then they had oil lamps on the streets. Nearly everybody in town had half to 1 acre of ground. There was just a delightful atmosphere. I still can't get over it. I still say, I'm going to the village. Everyone in Falls Church used to have a front porch. I would love to just sit on my front porch watching the world go by, or just being still.
Okay, we're here on the porch of Sam Mabry, Vice Mayor of the city, and something I just learned today was that the original owner of this house, Mr. Birch, was one of the original council members for the city of Falls Church.
He was on the first town council when it was formed. And subsequent Birches also had a large role to play in the city, and he was also one of the founding members of the Jefferson Institute.
We're sitting here today on a beautiful day and enjoying watching the leaves fall and the breezes, got the wind chime going. We're also hearing the traffic on East Broad Street. I imagine it's a lot different now than it was. The photos I've seen of Broad Street with this real nice avenue of trees, and I suppose it was a lot different when the house was built. When was the house built?
Well, the house was built in different stages. The first house was built about 1840. Could have gone back to the 1820s, and it was a simple shotgun house, which is an architect, you know what that is. You just open the front door and you can go right out the back door. But the street was lined with maple trees, and it was just a 2-lane road. And so in the 50s, the trees were cut down, and the street was widened to its current 4 lanes. Now with the 2020 project, we want to make sure it isn't widened to 6 lanes. So that's another issue for another time.
Well, as I said, it's a really nice porch that wraps around on 2 sides of the house, and the detail's fairly simple, but I think very nicely done and consistent with the house. Considering the porch was in fact added after the house was built.
Yeah, the porch was added in the 1850s, 1860s when the house was drastically changed. The roof line was changed. The roof was raised, and the back part of the house with the kitchen and the dining room plus 2 more bedrooms were added. And it took on its appearance as a Greek revival at that time, and that's when the porch was put on at that time.
Yeah, it does add a nice detail to the house, and the little bit of gingerbread on the front.
Right.
Again, it doesn't overwhelm the rest of the house. I think it's in keeping with the overall house. The overall house feels nice and consistent, and I think the porch is a very comfortable place to sit.
I think it's fair to say that the Birches, that the house reflects a family of simple tastes and hard work. There's nothing ostentatious, and never was, about the house. When it was redone in the inside, and the porch was redone also, and we have some of the supports, the poles that support the roof are original. Others were remanufactured because of time took its toll.
Sure.
But it was a working farm. Mr. Birch originally had 50+ acres that stretched over to Route 50, and they worked the farm all those years that they had the property until they began to sell off portions of it for subdivision as the Birch children and grandchildren went to work, which was a phenomenon that was not unlike what was going on in America, the industrialization of the country. And the last Birch was, I believe, Milton Birch was the last one to occupy the house, or perhaps it was his sister, and that was in 1968, 69. So they were here for 120 or 30 years.
Wow. Now these days, you being the current occupant, how often do you sit out on the porch, and what, as often as you'd like to, or?
Well, not as often as I like to, but every time I poop out doing the yard work, I come up and sit in the rocking chair or sit here on the pew and rest for a while until I go back. But there have been many things that have happened on the porch just in our short 15 years that we've occupied the house that are memorable. One evening, Jeff Englander, who's on the Planning Commission, Vice Chairman of the Planning Commission, was sitting where you are, and I was sitting in the rocking chair, and we were talking. Something was going on with the State Theater. There was another impediment to opening it, and we were in very intense discussions about what we were going to do. And my wife comes out the side door and says to me, "We're going to be grandparents for the first time."
Oh.
So we now have a 2-year-old grandson, and I learned about my first grandchild sitting here on the porch.
And if you'll never forget that.
No, I'll never forget it. And somehow we just forgot about Jeff. He just wandered off as we enjoyed our euphoria about having a grandchild.
Any historical events that you know about occurred either on the property or particularly on the porch?
Well, there's this controversy about this being the site of Wren's Tavern, and I think that's been pretty much set aside. But I don't think anybody has ever really found where Wren's Tavern is, and the old notion was that this is where Dolly Madison came. Was it Dolly Madison, or yeah, Dolly Madison, when she was escaping the British and they were burning the White House. That somehow Wren's Tavern was one of the first stops, and that the president caught up with her here. My daughter absolutely believed it, and when Roger Mudd knocked on our door for the Clinton took 29, which is the same route that Jefferson took when he went to Washington to be sworn in. And Roger Mudd came here for PBS and knocked on the door and asked my daughter, "Is this where Thomas Jefferson stopped, as well as Dolly Madison?"
And
my
she
daughter
said, "Well, sure."
Absolutely. It was unequivocal. Of course, she's a lawyer, so you know, what can you expect? And that made the news.
Yeah.
And there was an outpouring of historians who said, "Oh, that couldn't possibly be."
That's the best way to find out about a historical event, is to make a claim.
Yes, that's right. Well, she did, and we're still living that one down.
Yeah. Well, this, like I said, it's a beautiful day, and it's a really nice porch. I've driven by it for years and admired the house, and it's nice to stop by here and have a chat with you.
Yes, please. Anytime you want to, just come in and sit. I find neighbors sitting here and friends waiting for me.
As we were today.
Yes, as you were today. And they can't resist sitting in the old rocking chair or sitting here. And I don't know how many I've missed because they've gotten tired waiting for me. But it is an enjoyable place to sit and watch the traffic go by.
Yeah, it feels really nice here.
It
It's a nice part of Falls Church, and it's nice to know a little bit more of the history, and it was nice talking to you.
Yeah, with the weather in Washington so miserable a lot of the time, a spring day or a fall day here is a real joy, and it just allows you to recharge your batteries and enjoy the community as well as the nature.
And of course, how long through the year do you use it? Are there certain days, even in winter, that you can come out here?
Sure.
And catch a break from being inside?
The sun comes up, of course, in this direction is the east. So when the trees are without their leaves, on a nice winter day, when the sun comes up in the morning around 10 or 11 o'clock, the porch actually begins to warm up, and you can put on a jacket and come out here and read the Sunday paper.
Oh, great!
And it's wonderful. And then same thing in the summertime, the sun goes down in the west, which is on the other side of the house. This is the first area to cool. So if it's not one of those horrendously hot and humid days, this is a nice place to take a respite in the afternoon, run away from the air conditioning, which can chill you down too much,
Right.
and come out here and enjoy the breezes.
Well, it's the fact that there's no rail here. I actually kind of like that, because there's a buffer of plantings to keep the street at arm's length.
Yes.
And I feel very comfortable. It's not so high that you're worried about falling off, so it's feels good up here.
We're going to have a handicapped entrance, though. Some of our older friends find it hard to get up on the porch. And I think I'm going to go out to Sisler's and get some of those steps, concrete steps, and put them over in this area at the far end so that the older folks and those who are a little infirm can get up on the porch. But for us young whippersnappers, or those who are us still are, it's not too big of a jump.
Right. You can still hop up here.
Still hop up. Hopping down is easier.
Right. Okay, well, I appreciate you having me here.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
Certainly enjoyed it.
Good.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Sure thing.
Nearly every street in Falls Church was arched over with trees. You walked under a bower. That's what made Falls Church so attractive.
Well, Barbara, the Algonquins would canoe up 4 Mile Run, hike up to here, and they had their intermittent village up here. And then later in the 1800s, the Crossmans built a beautiful farm. That farmhouse has since been moved over to Little Falls Street. But one of the remnants of that farm was the great American beech tree. And there's some very interesting characteristics of this, but what do you note first, Barbara?
Oh, the beautiful bark. It's a smooth, like a hand-finished concrete that's been aged, like it's practically been poured. Also, the fusing of the branches together creates a very sculptural appearance, and the way the roots, the surface roots, flare at the base, it reminds me of that Joyce Kilmer poem about, I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree.
Well, it looks like it almost could start moving.
Yes, taking a walk and speaking as it goes.
Right, yeah, like you were saying earlier about the stories where the tree starts talking and the
Yes,
mouth opens like
yes.
that, and you see the eyes. I can see it on there.
Yes.
Now, what's the bark known best for?
Well, for being very smooth and for the fact that people like to carve in it. It has a chalkboard sort of appearance, so it's very appealing. People like to inscribe in it. Of course, it's not good for the tree.
Yeah, you can see something on the tree as we move a little closer. You can see almost how wide the tree used to be at one point, because what is unusual and special about this is somebody had put a chain around here, and what happened?
Well, it's fused inside, and it's been grown over. And as you said, it happened several years ago because this is
Several decades ago, you say?
Decades, yes.
I would say that was back during the days of the horse and buggy.
Yes, I definitely would say that.
So that's interesting. Now, also, we're noting a little earlier when we're looking at this tree that the nuts have already started to grow.
Yes, we can see some
And,
over here. These are the beech nuts that we talked about.
What's that? A gum?
Yes,
Beech nut
beech
gum?
nut gum and the beechwood aging of the beer that several companies evidently do.
Right.
But you can see where they're forming, and they have a split, and it's a hairy nut that has a nice sort of flat oval shape to it.
And that's in what, September is when you can eat them? Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, the leaf looks almost like an elm,
Yes,
almost.
it does. Yes, it does.
And but this is just a gorgeous tree. Now, there's one thing about this tree that is a little disturbing. It's disturbing to the tree is you know that one thing that the beeches are very sensitive to light, and you notice that around you see over there and on either side you see that lights have been pointed up onto the tree. So why is that a problem?
Well, they like to have a full rest period. A lot of plants, we notice this especially in interior plants as well, is when you're in an office building, plants need a rest time just as well as people.
So it's not really a good idea
No,
to
it's
light
not.
them. It actually inhibits, doesn't necessarily kill them, but it doesn't let them be as healthy as they could.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, you notice that these have fairly shallow roots too, so what does that tell you about when they mow the grass so short like this?
Well, they're obviously doing damage to the roots because you can see some of the scarring that's occurred here. The surface root of this tree is there's grass growing below the roots, so it's very difficult when they go to mow. Weed eaters and those sorts of pieces of equipment, any construction equipment or mowing equipment that goes on this will damage these roots, and of course that makes it harder for it to take up nutrients that it needs.
So I guess you're saying that if somebody has a beech tree, it'd be better to mulch the area
Yes, sir.
rather than have grass underneath.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well maybe that's a lesson we can all learn. Don't light the trees and put mulch under the trees rather
That's
than
correct.
But I really love how the base of this tree flares out. This just feels like the kind I really want to sit under.
Yes, that and that fusion we were talking about up in the branches where they've grown together, it reminds me of the banyan trees in the tropics.
They call that the bowl of the tree, where all of a
Yes.
sudden it goes from the trunk and splits out into branches. This looks like it's the perfect climbing tree.
Yes.
But we're not advising that, of
No,
course.
no.
No, we wouldn't do that.
I would definitely be begging for a fort if I was young.
Right. Now, the one thing interesting about the beech tree, another interesting thing is the passenger pigeons. From what I was understanding, something that the passenger pigeons used to use the beech forests as their habitat.
Yes, and they would eat the nuts, and they would nest in these trees. And when the beech trees were taken down, and when farmland was cultivated, we lost a lot of our passenger pigeon population.
Actually, they're extinct now,
Yes.
and a lot of people think it's just because we killed them with shotguns, but we could never have killed all those pigeons. It was when they removed all the habitat for the
That's right.
passenger pigeons, and they were quite an interesting. They were not the kind of city pigeons we have. They were a
That's
different.
correct.
They were a different breed. I heard stories that there'd be so many passenger pigeons on the bough of a tree that often that the bough would break.
Really?
And I don't know if that's where that story of when the bough breaks that song comes from, but the great beech forests of the United States are now a thing of the past. They do not exist anymore, and neither do the passenger pigeons. So went the beech, so went the passenger pigeons. Well, let's go over and look at a baby beech now.
Great.
Well, Barbara, we're at the baby beech right here that was planted for Dr. Kay Bachman, who was, when she retired from the Tree Commission after being on for 20-some good years. And we planted this baby beech right at this spot. And what do you think about the spot we selected?
Well, there's a large open space here, which the beech requires. It's very broad. It's much broader than it is taller, which is one of the very attractive points to the tree.
Well, and there's nothing growing under, so it can make those long, wide berth for the canopy, and it can go straight up here. So this is a good place. And this doesn't get any lighting at night, does it? This is a nice dark area at night.
Yes, and it likes to be left alone in the evening. No supplemental lighting.
That's good, because a lot of people like to shine lights on trees, and beech is not one tree you want to do that to, for sure. And it doesn't get too much compaction here. I don't think too many vehicles drive up here.
No, and I think it's to the corner here where there's not a lot of foot traffic either, which is nice.
Yeah, that's good. Now the beech tree has a lot of interesting facets to it. We have two places that we've all heard the name beech in our common advertisement. Do you know what those are?
Beechwood Aging for Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah. It's not a plug, by the way.
No.
They cut down a lot of beech trees to do that.
Yes, they did. And the, of course, beech nut gum.
Okay. Now, not many people know about beech nuts. Can you tell me anything about beech nuts?
They're very good nuts. People don't eat them anymore, but for some reason, I imagine there's some folks out there that do enjoy the beech nut, but it is a tasty nut.
I guess there's not that many beech trees left. Might be
That's
one of them.
correct.
And I think they come out in September.
Yes.
And they're very edible and very tasty, and it's one of the many lost arts we've had. And maybe if we start planting some beech trees, maybe we'll get some beech nut aging ourselves. How's
Yes.
that? Okay.
Uncle George used to take me down to Mankin's Notions and Dry Goods, a corner store at Broad in Washington, where the office building is now. She always had candy, which was something we couldn't have at home. It was a great treat for me to go to Mrs. Mankin's store and have those marvelous penny candies. Uncle George used to carry me down to the store and get them for me. Mother didn't approve, but he did it just the same. I enjoyed it.
All right, today we're going to be hitting one of the premier gathering spots in Falls Church, both for the very young and the not so very young. And I got to tell you, in my day, I was one heck of a duck pin player, so I'll show you some of my skills in here. Hi, I'd like to bowl today. I need some shoes. 9. 9 would be great. Yes, please. Okay, and do I pay now or? Oh, okay. Thank you. Lane 13. All right, this brings back fond memories of my younger days of playing duck pin. And as you can tell, I'm double knotting my shoes because I've got 3 little kids that you gotta always double knot or the shoes don't stay on. And here we go. See, as a kid, this is great because the balls are nice and small and easy to handle. And it's been about 25 years, but here we go. My memory serves me right, you get 3 balls instead of 2. I'm getting there. One more ball. Here we go. I feel a spare in this one. Yeah, I need some lessons. Can you teach me?
This ball is kind of heavy for me, and my fingers are small. But this is the way you're supposed to hold it. See, I can get my finger through there?
Uh-huh.
That's the way you're supposed to hold it. Then you go up. You can't make the difference. I got to go away to the line. So what I'm doing, I got to go bowl. Okay. I've had trouble getting on the hard floor.
I gotta concentrate. This is my first shot with my new lesson. You gonna give me a lesson?
No.
Show me. Let me see. I need one of these.
Yeah.
That's what I need. I haven't had much success yet. I'm gonna concentrate. I think it's the lane. We're on lane 13. That has to be it. Hi, Kitty. And you're the president of this league?
Well, yes, they voted me in this year. But every year we vote for different officers in.
So it's this one, she's your treasurer.
I've been the treasurer for years.
How many years?
I don't know.
How-
And I think I've been
5, 6.
I think I've been to school for about 20.
Nobody wants our job. But I don't mind it. I like it.
Being president, you just have to stand up here and talk to people, that's all.
Now, when did the league first start?
We started over at Bailey's Crossroads.
Years and years ago. No idea how many years
I
ago.
started in the 70s, and it was going strong before that.
I started in the 60s.
Yeah, long time.
Wow, 60s, that's great.
We've been here how long?
Close to 15 years.
Really? 15 years right here. I didn't realize that.
Sometimes I don't remember my own age. My sister
See, they tore down the one at
I gotta
Bailey's
go
Crossroads. It used to be the airport. They had an airport there, and then they turned
Now
it
it's a
so that
restaurant.
now it's a restaurant.
I have to go both.
Okay,
How long have you been bowling in the league?
well, over 40 years, I'm sure. A long time.
You like this spot?
And I bowl 4 times a week over here.
Wow.
I bowl on Monday nights and Tuesday morning, Tuesday nights and Wednesday morning. But I'm not that good a bowler, but I used to be a lot better, but when you get to be 77, ugh.
All right, we're now in the party room, and I'm having a party here. Come on down and join me. The other thing is, this is a good room off from the main bowling alley, and if you bowl like I do, it's a good place to kind of hide where no one can find you. After you bowl some duck pin, which is great activity for kids because the balls are nice and small and they can handle. You can have a birthday party here with the full fixings. Happy birthday. Pardon me?
Were you impressed about all this?
Yeah, very much so.
It's just a ladies' thing.
I know, but
At nighttime.
I mean, look at the ratio. I mean, this is, if I was a guy, I would be definitely, you know, hanging out here and, well, I am a guy, but I'm, it was a tough day. My first 3 balls were the best ones, and I went downhill from there, even with all of that lesson helping. But I had fun.
I loved going to the village. Everybody knew everybody. I would say, "Hello, Mrs. Brown," or "Hello, Mr. Hawkshurst," and they would all know me and my kin.
Well, we're sitting here today with Marie Yoakum, and Marie is one of our most familiar faces in Falls Church. Marie, how long have you lived here in Falls Church?
Well, I've lived here many years.
Many years. Okay, we
Many
won't go
years.
into how many, but
It's
many
It's
years.
been a long time.
Okay. And you've told me that your family has lived here for a long time. How long has your family been in the Falls Church area?
Well, it goes way back. I mean, my mother was born here in Falls Church, and she was from the Lynch family. She married a Mankin, and my grandmother was a Mankin, and my mother was the oldest of her children. And the Lynches were connected with the Mankins, and the Lynches did live at Big Chimneys.
Now, how long ago do you think? I mean, just estimate. When did Lynches and Mankins Mankins first come to Falls Church? Ballpark time.
Oh my, Now, I don't have that date in my mind, but it is in my nephew Melvin's book.
Okay. But we're
When
talking
they
about
did
at
come-
least the 1800s.
Oh yes, at least the 1800s.
Okay. So I've been here a long time. Now, you mentioned Big Chimneys. You did something fairly important for the City of Falls Church. As a few months back, I think I came over to your house and said, please, 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 Mrs. Yoakum, we're looking for a picture of Big Chimneys, because we don't have any for the tricentennial. And you did some research with one of your relatives?
Yes, my niece, who was the sister of Melvin Stedman, who wrote By Fence and Fireside, and I told her to go through some things sometime when she had time to see what she could find about Big Chimneys. And she was just looking through a box that she was moving in her basement, and she happened to open that box, something told her to, and there on top was this picture. And she thought it was Big Chimneys, and she brought it to my house, and then you came over and said, yes, it is.
Well, here's the picture enlarged quite a bit, and of Big Chimneys, and this was a very exciting find, and is the basis of our tricentennial celebration. And now let me get this: was it your mother or your grandmother who lived in this, in Big Chimneys?
No, it was my mother's father married Elizabeth Ellen Lightfoot, who lived at Big Chimneys.
Okay.
That's the connection.
That's the connection.
The Lightfoots.
Okay. Great. And so this is quite exciting. And in a few minutes we'll go down and look. We're just making an area. We're going to put a sign in. And by the way, you are the first person outside the two designers of this that is seeing this. And this is
that's
a
lovely.
momentous occasion. This is your picture that is being on a sign that's going to be mounted here in Big Chimneys Park, where we're sitting today.
Yes.
And by the time this TV show is aired, this sign will be in Big Chimneys Park along with the finished foundation of Big Chimneys.
That's lovely.
We'll go down and see that
lovely.
in a minute. So now, when you grew up here, you grew up right over the hill here. Where is that? Where Anthony's and the post office is now?
Well, our home house, which was my grandparents' home, was where the post office is, on that property right there, on this side, across from Oddfellows Hall. When my grandmother died, she left a house to my mother on Little Falls Street, which was just around the corner there on Little Falls Street, and that's where I had our home. Our home was there.
Okay.
So I was there in Falls Church in the late 20s and through the 30s.
That's great. Well, we're looking at where were some of the places that you went to in the village when you were growing up, and we brought some pictures along. And here's a building I think you hung out in quite a bit.
Yes.
That's the now the Women's Club, or
Yes.
Women's Club.
Well, I graduated from the Jefferson Institute, which is a high school in Falls Church, and I was on the basketball team, and we used to practice our basketball team many, many times in this building. And I still go there to play bridge and do things with the Women's Club.
So you were a familiar face there in the past, and you're a familiar face there now.
Right.
It seems awfully small for a basketball court. Did it seem big to you then?
It did. We had plenty of room.
That's great.
It does seem small now that I think about it, but we did practice there.
It has a beautiful floor. I guess it could handle the basketballs.
Yeah.
So the Women's Club is still standing right next to the State Theater.
It certainly
so you go
is.
to the theater and then you go play basketball.
That's right.
Here's Linda Mankin's store
Yes.
that later became
Yes.
Ware's Pharmacy.
This was originally Mankin's Pharmacy, and then it became my grandmother's dry goods and notion store. And then I remember it when it was Ware's Pharmacy, and I used to go in there and drink Coca-Cola, and we had those wire stools. And we used to have a carnival in East Falls Church every once in a while, and I got to go to a carnival. We didn't have many things to go to around here. Grew up in Doolin Methodist Church. My grandmother used to play the organ there, but of course I wasn't there at that time, but I know she used to. My grandfather, my mother's father, was a postmaster in 1895, and then his daughter, my Aunt Ruth Hildebrand, she was Mankin at that time, she was in 1919 the postmaster here. Then after that she continued to work for the post office, and she worked for him until she retired. She worked for them many years, even at this newer place. So then I used to go to that little red brick post office down there, which my grandfather gave the money to build that post office. And then
Where was that?
It was down just past the Ware's Pharmacy, on down there, just a couple
on
doors.
East Broad Street, yes.
On East Broad Street, and it was a little red brick building with some black iron railings, or
That's right.
I
We do
remember.
have some good pictures of that. That's
All right. Well, my aunt was working there at that time too. She worked in the post office as well as being postmistress in 1919. And I remember the Lynch, the seeds. There was a feed store.
Lynch's feed
I
store.
remember
right.
Mr. Lynch in the feed store. The Lynch, they're all connected with our family, so I remember that feed store. I remember the old jailhouse, the old police house used to be right around
South Washington Street.
Yeah, right there. I remember that.
Had the bell.
Little building.
Had
Yeah.
the bell up in it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And Oddfellows Hall, I say I remember that. I don't
Now,
remember.
your family has a connection with the Oddfellows Hall. Why don't you?
Well, my grandfather, Charles Edward Mankin, he gave the money to build Oddfellows Hall, and then he held every office in the lodge there was to hold. And his picture, I can remember his picture. I remember going into Oddfellows Hall, and my grandfather's picture was hanging there for many years.
Well, that was a great building. Now, we're not talking about the one that's in existence now. There
Oh,
was
no.
one where the antique annex is
That's
now.
right.
And
It was just this side of where that antique place is.
right. And that was a magnificent building. They used to hold
It
dances
was.
there all the time.
Very nice building.
Right. And I'm sorry that was torn down. And, now, I want to ask you one more question. Now, we talked about big chimneys and your family being in there. Falls Church doesn't have a museum currently.
No.
There's talk about getting one, and there's very few artifacts about Falls Church. But you have a wonderful artifact that was made in Big Chimneys.
Yes, I do.
And I wondered if we could see this, because the public has never seen. Whoa, it's
Oh,
right here. Yeah.
Okay.
The public has never seen this before. What is this? You
Now this
hold
is.
it toward the camera.
You wanna,
And
you hold that.
What is this?
This was made by Aunt Mary Lynch, who was my mother, who is Melvin, wrote this note, so
Oh,
that's
yeah,
why it's
you
not.
have to
I'm trying to
transfer it.
transfer. Yeah, so therefore, my mother used to sit and talk to Aunt Mary Lynch a lot, and she told her that. I'd almost have to read this. This is made by old Aunt Mary Lynch, with whom our grandmother Hearst would sit. Now, that would be my mother, Grandmother Hearst, and during thunderstorms. And Aunt Miles, can't see without my glasses too well anymore, as mentioned in the good. This is in a little bit in his Fence and Fireside. Aunt Mary. She was born Mary Ann Lightfoot, February 18th, 1831. She was a sister of our great-great-grandmother Lynch, which would be my grandmother Lynch.
So the woman who made this was born in 1831, and she made this at Big Chimneys.
Yes, that's right.
And this is a scarf.
And
it's a beautiful scarf. It looks like strawberries on
this
there.
scarf was made at Big Chimneys, Falls Church, Virginia, 1855.
Oh, 1855.
For
Years
Aunt
ago.
Mary's Hope Chest.
Oh, that's great. Well, this is a wonderful.
And my Aunt May Hearst, who was my mother's sister, gave it to my nephew Melvin Stedman in 1949. So he inherited this, but this was made at Big Chimneys.
I understand you held a very high office in the Daughters of the American Revolution. You were.
Yes, I was President General. I was a Centennial President General from 1989 to 1992.
You're one of the first persons to see the foundation of the outline of the Big Chimneys where your grandmother lived and your mother told you about. And this is not the exact spot because we don't own the property where,
yes, I know.
where the exact spot was. But we're trying to recreate the outlines in size. We have the bricks indicate where the chimney was. There was another chimney on the other side, and the gravel indicates where the walls were, and there was one going right down the middle because we believe that the cabin was small and then expanded, and the wooden beams represent where the walls were, and we're putting up a sign. It's obviously not completed. You can see the mounds of dirt, but how does it feel now? A familiar face like you're seeing the beginnings of the rebuilding of a home that was your ancestral home.
It's really wonderful. I'm just glad that I'm here with you today to talk a little bit about Big Chimneys.
Without you, we would never had a picture of Big Chimneys, and we wouldn't be knowing our history or our sense of place. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, my niece found it and gave it to me, and I was glad to pass it on to you.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Thank you.
I heard music everywhere in town. A lot of folks had pianos and other instruments in their homes, and I could just walk up and down the street and hear people playing pianos and violins and singing. Some fellas were always sitting on the front steps of the stores down by the crossroads playing harmonica. Of course, there was music at church on Sundays and Wednesdays. A band always played at town picnics. One of my favorite things was dances at the Oddfellows Hall.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at Fox's Music Company at 416 South Washington Street. And yeah, there really is music everywhere. Why don't you come on in? Let me show you. Fox's has been around for 46 years, ladies and gentlemen. Second oldest business in Falls Church history. Yeah, hi.
Hi, how you doing?
How are you? What's your name?
Michelle Williams.
And what do you do?
I teach and I work here as a sales rep and I perform.
You're a teacher, a performer, and a sales rep. How long have you been here?
6 years.
And I know you must love it.
I do.
You must. It's a great music store.
Yes.
It's been around a long time. Yeah, it's nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks. Come on down. Charge! How are you?
All right.
Good. What's your name?
Peter.
I'm Jim.
Hey.
Is this your cello? How long you work here?
Just a few months, maybe like 5.
Okay. Through the rental season, right? Love it?
Yeah, yeah.
I bet you do. So do you perform as well?
Not professionally yet, but I'm in college, taking the trumpet as a major.
Right. I understand, in fact, Fox's has a requirement of everybody's either a graduate or a student in music.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
For now. How you doing?
How you doing?
Yeah.
I'm Steve.
Hi, Steve. I'm Jim.
Nice to meet you, Jim.
Yeah. What do you do?
I'm a guitar player.
Yeah.
Of sorts.
Yeah. How long you been here at Fox's?
Wow. I don't know. Long enough to scratch my head.
So how do you mix the two? I'm sure you got a big schedule. Huh?
Yeah. Now I do about 10 hours a week here, or maybe 12 hours a week here, and about 4 nights a week playing.
Yeah. Where do you play?
Play everywhere. December 17th, State Theater, Falls Church, Virginia.
Right there. Hey.
Plug.
So what do you sell here? What do you got for sale?
We got metronomes, we got violin strings, we got oboes, we got cellos, man, you name it. Musical spectrum, A to Z. All the way.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Jim. Pleasure to meet you, buddy.
How you doing?
Okay.
So, I know you work here. I've recognized you forever being here. What's your name?
My name's Kevin.
And you're the manager?
Manager of the instrument department, yeah.
So, what else do you do?
I play saxophone. I play in a 13th Street Saxophone Quartet, which is a local sax group. And I play in a big band. I play Barry sax.
And I think you were here last New Year's Eve, weren't you?
Yes. Right. Yeah, the Pan American Big Band played last New Year's Eve here.
Right. That's pretty neat. Well, it must be a pretty good place to work.
Yeah, it is.
What else do you sell at the instrument counter? I know you're the manager.
Well, we sell all the band and orchestra instruments. We sell guitars, both acoustic and electric, and accessories for all of them. So pretty much everything a musician would need, we try to carry here.
What's the difference between Fox's and all of the things they do in a normal music store? I know you're different. Can you tell me?
Well, I would say it would have to be the customer service here. If we don't have something, we'll special order it for somebody. We'll do the research and...
I've seen you repairing instruments too.
Yeah, we do that too.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
Pretty good, buddy.
How are you today?
What was that?
That was
Sounded-
impromptu in 7 flats.
Not a mood indigo or something?
No, nothing like that. Just called noodling.
Noodling. It's
Noodling
so
around.
good.
Thank you.
What do you do here?
Well, besides selling accessories and things of that nature, I help to sell guitars and pianos and all the accessories that go with it. Guitars, guitar stands, guitar picks, guitar cases.
Do you really match anybody's price?
As a matter of fact, I believe our prices are better than the competition. When we sit down and do the math, we find out that we're usually below the competition's price.
That's great.
Yeah.
What about yourself? You're obviously well trained. Are you teaching? Tell me about your background. How long have you been playing?
About 4 years now. And yeah, I did a lot of playing. I'm not actually out there in competition with anyone anymore. I'm going to leave that to the kids. I think they're doing a much better job than I could do at this point. But I did a lot of playing extensively across the country, yeah.
Are you from this area?
No, I'm originally from Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah. But I like it here. It's very, very nice. I like the people and the atmosphere, and it's conducive to learning and trying to do a good job.
Magic box.
Getting a hand on the new technology.
I love it. It's fantastic.
You know, just like computers and all, the digital technology has brought things down. This is like pretty inexpensive, but it does a whole lot of things that weren't possible 5 years ago.
Yeah, and they're more acceptable now, aren't they?
A lot of teachers have gotten used to the fact that Bach only had 61 keys.
Yeah.
So it's possible for to have a portable keyboard for someone starting out that wants to see if it's going to fly. They don't have to put a whole lot of money in. They can get something very decent to start with. And a lot of teachers are starting to accept that. And it's a good thing because it opens it up to people that with a little less money that still want to play music.
But I didn't know you were a piano store, a keyboard store.
Well, we're a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
We aim to please, and you know, certainly keyboards, electronic keyboards are a big part of the educational process.
Yeah.
You get it gives you the chance to, because most of your musical theory and things are based upon the keyboard, and so it's good even if you play another instrument. It's good to have some keyboard knowledge because a lot of things are explained in terms of the piano keyboard.
Well, I know you've taught, I know you sell, I know that you've performed, and you're from Virginia?
Yes.
All right.
I'm a native, one of the few left.
That's right. play something else for us. And I'm going to step out. Saying something, do a little something different. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay.
I'm Jim.
Kevin.
How you doing, Kevin?
Right.
What are you doing?
I'm checking in some new music that just came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you like working here?
That's good. I enjoy working with the people here and meeting a lot of the customers who come in. Met a lot of interesting
Betsy,
people.
line 2. Line 2 for Betsy.
How long you been here?
14 years now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that you're the largest supplier of printed music in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia.
Yeah, you could pretty much say, yeah, we do have a lot of satisfied customers who come here. They've been able to find things here, they say they haven't been able to find elsewhere, and usually
How do you
order
know,
things for people.
Wait a minute. How do you know you're the largest?
Well, like I was just saying, like a lot of people, claim that they've found things here, they couldn't find elsewhere. We've been able to get things for them, they weren't able to get elsewhere. So.
Don't the publishers also tell you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice meeting you, Kevin.
Nice meeting you.
See you, buddy.
Okay.
Good morning, Jim.
Hi, Pat.
How are you? Good.
Tell us who you are.
This is the choral department, Fox's Music Company, and we're really.
And what's your name?
I'm Pat Sweet.
Pat Sweet. S-W-E-E-T. Kind of hard to believe, honey, but she's every bit of it, too.
Working on it.
So, choral music, that's kind of different, isn't it? I mean.
Well, we have many churches in the area, as you know, and schools, and the choral department, we're really glad to serve the churches in the community and the schools.
How many churches do you have as accounts, would you say?
Oh, wow, Jim, that's a very good question. We ship out all over the country, not just in this area, but all over the country, and that's really exciting. I would say a couple of thousand, maybe. Not everything really regular, but it's
Pretty
good.
neat.
It's good, really.
And it's nice knowing you.
Great. Got a great story.
Well, I think it's pretty neat. They have gifts here. If you have a musician in the family, you ought to darn well do some shopping. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, if not for the frogs, what else? All these thousands of other gifts. Pretty neat.
Sometimes I would walk to and from the village along the roads, but I loved to walk the trails and alleys behind houses, through fields and woods. It just seemed more special.
And you can still walk home on trails in Falls Church from the middle of town. And we're here today at Stream Valley Trail, a long 4-mile run in Isaac Grossman Park. Come on and walk with me. We'll see what the trail's like today. On your left over here is a area grown wild. It's 4-mile run, and it was engineered a few years ago, and it's growing back now. And it's pretty wild down there. There's been beaver down there and muskrats. You'll find fox down there. Let's go on down. Let's get off the trail for a minute. Let's go down and see what's happening in the stream. Used to be a beaver dam right here about a year ago, but I think that was broken up. You can see a few remnants over to the right over there on the other side. People named it Buxton the Beaver. And this was all built up during a storm. This is a raging flood scene because all the water from about 2 square miles rushes down through the storm drains to this point. Across the stream you see the kudzu covering the trees, and it really does
It kills the trees because it keeps them from photosynthesizing and shrouds them. I was brought over to the United States many, many decades ago from, I believe, Japan, and to control erosion, and it sure does, but it controls everything else. And so whenever you're down here, just see kudzu, pull it out. After you walk past the first 100 yards, you walk over a little hill, and this has been filled in. This was a stream, the Crossman Branch. It was a freshwater stream coming into here, spring-fed, and it's now been piped underground, unfortunately, and comes right out into 4 Mile Run. And walking over that pipe, and we're entering into the woods. And this is a forest fragment that has a lot of woodpeckers and owls and all kinds of little creatures in it. It's kind of fun. Let's go on in. We had this trail built through so that it wouldn't grow over as easily. We have hickory in here, maple, oak. Here's some ironwood right here. Over on the right we have some serviceberry that we planted. Trying to make sure we're keeping the native plants here. About a couple years ago, a number of us came out and we planted some redbuds and some loblolly pines, some sweet gums. There are some trees that decayed out here and were falling over, and they had to be replaced, so we literally planted a forest. And you'll find there's elderberry, more redbud, some native magnolia that's native to this area, some non-native weeds, thistle that just hurt, and now we're coming over to a little bridge. Every place that the water would get to the stream would build a bridge here. There's a cardinal flower right there. That's a beauty. It's past its prime right now, but that's a native flower that you find around here, that red one. Here's another side trail over to the stream. Let's see what we find over here. Let's go over and see what the stream looks like here. We've got to watch out for the poison ivy along the side. This area here along the stream is what we call a blowout. They brought bulldozers down here when they were building the townhouses and literally straightened the stream with the bulldozer and left it. And when the water comes down here during a storm, it just blows out and comes pell-mell down here. There's no meandering of the stream or anything to slow it down, and it tears across the street, across the stream. You can see how it tears the roots out. Now those trees won't last much longer. They'll fall into the stream. Now, a tree falling in a stream is not a bad thing. It's actually very helpful to the wildlife. And it helps slow down the stream a little bit, which we need to do. It goes too fast and tears out the sides of the stream. Right along the edge of the stream you see a gray clay coming out. It's below the red clay, right at the edge of the stream. And the Algonquins, when they lived here, they used to take that and make pottery out of that gray clay. That's a marine clay. To your left over here is a tree that a long time ago, about 5-6 years ago, a beaver had gnawed down. And it's just starting to sprinkle now, and you don't feel any of the rain. It's all stopped by the canopy of trees here.
One of the most interesting things to me is that right in the middle of Falls Church, right in the middle of one of the fastest urbanizing areas anywhere, we have magnificent old houses and trees, beautiful music still in homes and on the streets, marvelous places to gather, and trails to return home on. It makes me wonder why these wonderful qualities of village life remain here in Falls Church.